For section 6.5, we're going to start off by solving polynomials by factoring. So the first thing that you want to do is make sure that your polynomial is set equal to 0. So one side of the equation has to be 0. In example 1a here, that's already done for us, so we don't have to do that step. Then step 2 is to see if the three terms have anything in common. So looking at this one, I can divide all three of those by a 3 as well as an x squared. And I did notice that I did make a mistake. This 3x squared should be 3x to the 5th. So we're going to go and divide by 3. And then the lowest amount of x's is x to the 3rd. So they all have at least x to the 3rd. So we're going to take a 3 and x to the 3rd out. So the first term, 3 divided by 3 is 1, and x to the 5th, and taking 3 away would leave me with x to the 2nd. And then 18 divided by 3 would be 6, and x to the 4th, and taking the 3 out would just leave me with 1x. And then 27 divided by 3 is 9, and we took the x to the 3rd out. So we have, that is our factored version here. Now, inside of the parentheses, we have a perfect square trinomial. So I can take the square root of x squared and get x, and the square root of 9 is 3. 3 times 3. So factored, we would have x and then our 3, and everything is positive inside the parentheses, so this will be a positive, and that would be squared because there's 2 of the same thing. So that's 0. So now we have to take each piece and set those equal to 0. So we have 3x to the 3rd equals 0. And we have x plus 3 equals 0. Now there is 2 of those x plus 3's, but I do not need to write them out. They're going to be the same answer. So 3 times something to the 3rd power is going to give me 0. Well, I know that I have to multiply by 0 to get a 0. So that x has to be 0. And then here, x plus 3 is equal to 0. Well, that would be negative 3 plus 3 is 0. So the two answers are 0 and negative 3. For this example, we have to make it equal to 0 first. So I'm going to add 36 to both sides. So I'm going to have x to the 4th minus 13x squared plus 36 equals 0. And again, I notice that this is a perfect square, so I can do x squared times x squared is x to the 4th. And then 36 would be 6 times 6. So I would do 2 times, no I wouldn't, scratch that. I was going to say 2 times 1 from the front times 1 from the back will give us that middle number. And that doesn't work out. So I can't do the perfect square trinomial. This is not a perfect square trinomial, so this is not going to work. But when I factor this, because this first term is x to the 4th, I know I'm going to have to do x squared times x squared. Now the next question is, what can we multiply together? What are the factors of 36 that are going to add together to be negative 13? So we have 1 and 36, 2 and 18, 3 and 12, 4 and 9, and 6 times 6. Now they have to multiply to be a positive, but add to be a negative. That means they both need to be negatives. So which set equals negative 13 when I add it together? That would be the negative 4 and negative 9. Now I have to factor these again because I need x, just a simple x with exponent of 1. So this is a difference of 2 squares here, x squared minus 4. It's a difference because it's subtraction, and I can take the square root of both x squared and 4. So x squared is x, and 4 is 2 and 2. So that's x plus 2 and x minus 2. And the same thing over here with x squared minus 9. that would be x and x, and this would be 3 and 3. So we would have x plus 3, and we would have x minus 3. So now, what can we plug into each one of those to make 0? So the first one, I could plug in a -2. The second one, I could plug in a +2. The third one would be -3, and the fourth one would be +3. So I went to a graphing calculator and typed in that function here so you could see why there was 4 zeros, because the zeros are where they cross the x-axis at. So this graph turns out to look like almost like a W. And if we zoom in, we can see at -2 and -3, and then +2 and +2 or 3, where they cross the x-axis at. All right. So those are my 4 zeros. And then we have one more here. It's set equal to 0, so I don't need to worry about that. I do notice that they have a 2 and an x to the 4th in common, so I'm going to factor out 2x to the 4th, and that would leave me with x squared and -5 and an x and -6. So what can we multiply together to get -6 that would add together to be -5? So our options are 1 and 6 and 2 and 3. If I want to add together to have a negative left over, then I would make the larger number negative. So that would leave me with the 1 and the -6. So I have 2x to the 4th, x plus 1, and x minus 6. So we're going to have 3 answers here. We have 1, 2, 3 different places to figure out what would make them 0. So the first one would be 0. 0 to the 4th times 2 would leave me with 0. In the middle, we would have to plug in a -1 there to make it 0. And then in the last one, 6 minus 6 would give us 0. So 0 and -1 and 6. So this has 3 zeros.